What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be checking out the experimental version of Arma Reforger. This is going to be a first look for me. We're just going to do a bit of a deep dive on all the current features that are in this version. So again, this version is 1.3.0.38 at the time of recording. I have no doubts that they'll probably end up patching it to a different version before full release to the stable version of the game. So here we're just going to dive into almost all the features, or at least we'll try to cover all the features in this video on what is currently released in this version. We'll look through the destruction, the mortars, the new things that have been added to Game Master, soldier types, vehicle types, etc. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into it, and we're going to start off first with looking at what has been added for the GM. Alright, so let's kick off with what's new for Game Master. So we'll open our scenario properties here, switch over to here. So playable factions still the same. Game settings, this is where the differences begin. So everything here is still the same. We get down here, and this is actually pretty interesting. So we have a new addition of friendly fire kill feed settings. So you can have this as showing to the entire team, show it to the players involved, or you can just do the default kill feed setting, which I'm assuming would go from the kill feed settings here, basically feed down, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is pretty cool. You can basically have the parties resolve it themselves so they see who killed who, or you could do the shame route and show the entire team that your guys are doing blue on blue and naughty things to each other. So the shame, shame, shame route. This is all still the same, except for the addition of mortars here, so you can now disable that if you don't want people saving that. It seems like, for whatever reason, radios are still disabled by default, which is kind of annoying if you have like ORPs and stuff. We usually, at least for our scenarios, keep this on because we deploy ORPs or use the radio backpack, so not being able to save that's kind of annoying. I'm sure there's reasons for it being automatically disabled, but I see that that hasn't changed, so it is what it is. We also have the ability to punish team killing now. So that's simple yes or no Boolean, or what do you say, true or false, right? If we're going to talk about Booleans. We have the player perceived faction setting. So this is pretty neat. So you have disabled, you have mixed, which here it says it's allowing the mix and matching of different faction items, the perceived faction being the most recognizable parts of the outfit. And then we have complete uniforms. So they cannot basically mix or match, it seems like, so it must consist of pieces that share the same faction as a player. Both jackets and pants are required. So basically what this is saying is you have the option to prevent people from mixing factions. So I know what a lot of people do on multiplayer servers now is that they'll pick up, enemy uniforms, dress up that way, and then pretend to be, the faction that they're not, and go around and basically team wipe people, which to me personally, that's a pretty good strategy. But if you want to restrict that, you can now at various levels, depending on what you want to do. And now this is where it gets really funny. So this is new, killing while disguised punishment. So what we just said here, if you did do what I said of basically pretending to be an enemy faction and killing the other team, you could either choose to not punish them, you can cause them to lose XP, or you can make it a war crime. So if it's a war crime, it's completely forbidden, and if they continue to do it, it kicks them from the server. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then here, of course, we have show the motor shells, the ballistic data, which is pretty neat. So you can either turn that off or on the use UI. In terms of time of the day and everything, this is still the same as the stable version. Weather, still 4 options, still the same as the stable version. And fuel consumption, global global bleeding rates, and regeneration speed still the same as the stable version. So really it's just those game settings that we talked about here. So let's go ahead and jump into the next thing. Let's look at the new vehicles that they're going to be adding with the experimental update. All right, so we're here at Everon Airport now. We're going to go ahead and check out the vehicles. We've got 2 new US gunships. These are going to be the Hueys, and so I'm just going to pan over here so I can show you the difference. So what we're looking at here on the right is the HEDP, so high explosive dual purpose. And so really you can just see it on the rocket pods. You can tell the difference. So this is HEDP, so HEDP, high explosive dual purpose again. This is going to be more of an anti-Vic type of helicopter. And then right next to it we have the HE variant, which you can see the rocket pods are different in visual aspect and model differently here. This is going to be against infantry, so more effective against infantry. For the Russian side of things, we have the 2 Mi-8s over here. That's going to be exactly the same thing, or exact same concept as the Hueys. You're going to have HE and HEDP. Again, you can kind of see the differences in the rocket pods themselves. So that's pretty neat to see. Everything else is still the same. Nothing different on the model. But then when we pan over here, what's pretty neat is now we have the civilian version of the Huey, and honestly a pretty cool livery, I think. Again, no weapons. This is civilian. That doesn't stop you from you and your buddies loading up a bunch of guns to get in this, but honestly, I really like the livery on this thing. It just looks pretty good, so I'm gonna enjoy flying that thing around, just, you know, kicking it around Everon, kicking around modded maps and whatnot. That thing looks pretty cool. So again, we have that's basically like the US civilian version, right? But then we have the civilian versions of the MI8. So again, no guns, but we have these two really awesome liveries. We've got the kind of like orangey red on white with the faded like white. I think that looks really good. And then if we zoom over here, we've got the blue variant, which again, I think looks really good. So these are the civilian variants that are going to be added within the game. So again, no rocket pods, nothing, but honestly, I think adding civilian liveries and civilian versions of these helicopters is going to be great, both from a roleplay aspect as well as just from like a coolness aspect. And I mean, just look at the size of those MI8 rotors. That's insane. Alright, so starting off with the MI8, decided to flip around even though we show the Hueys first. We'll take a look at them here in a second. What I've noticed off the bat is you can see the user interface has changed, so it looks a bit different than it initially did. We've got a couple new prompts here as well, so if we look up here, we can see the fire mode, which we can't change right now. It's stuck to ripple. We've got weapon station select, we've got ripple quantity, which is pretty cool. We can also see that we have iron sight, which is pretty cool. We have sun filter, also really cool. And then we can also do sight elevation, so that's pretty neat. The rest of this seems pretty standard. The modeling still seems the same, at least in my eyes. We got our gunner, of course, so let's see how the big girl does. So I'm going to go ahead and fly it down the runway. I've got some infantry and some vehicles down there right now. And I'm not a pilot, so we'll see how well this goes for me. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. So yeah, I would imagine if you change your ripple settings there, depending on what you set, that'll control the amount of rockets that you fire off. And so I was a little too lazy to change my keybinds, so my trims are currently off. I don't know if I've got any left, but let's see. Nope, we're empty. So it looks like infantry are all dead there. Infantry dead there. The reconnaissance vehicle still standing. A bunch of infantry dead there, and it looks like the truck is damaged. So that's pretty cool. Alright, so in the high explosive variant of the Huey right now, as you can see, the UI is obviously going to be different for all vehicles, but we've got our culminator up here, so we can go ahead and deploy that. We can also do sight elevation, so let's go ahead and deploy it. Of course, you can change your sight elevation on the dial there, and so basically all I can do here is go up and down, which is pretty neat. There's our sight. We've got our table here as well, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and take this thing up in the air. And I've just set up a bunch of vehicles again at the end of the airstrip. And why don't we see what the rockets are like on the Huey. So again, no ripple here, but you can fire them at your discretion. So, cool rockets at once. Gotta say that's pretty neat. And it looks like I did a terrible job of hitting any vehicles, but we got all the infantry out, so. Alright, so we're here down where the vehicles are. I'm not going to spend too much time on these because we're pretty familiar with these if you've used the ambulances. So it looks like, again, you can, of course, get in as driver. Looks like new animations too, that's pretty cool. Hazard lights, etc. And of course, there's no seats because it's a cargo van. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and jump out real quick. I like the animation. In terms of the cargo, so there's a refuel point there. Looks like we can push open the back. Be cool if you get in with your buddies or put bodies in there, but I think it's just supplies only. So again, it's going to be the same for FIA, depending on if it's a transport or cargo. I think this is a cargo. This is a transport, so let's see what that looks like. Just bench seats in the back. So you can turn the dashboard light on, and probably if you're playing conflict, get shot immediately through the glass or take an RPG to the side. So there we go for animations. That's pretty cool. And now jumping into the new FIA and Soviet VIX. So we've got refuel here. That's pretty cool. We've got a prompt at the bottom now that appears. So no support structures or vehicles in range. That's pretty cool. Let's see what else. There's probably a decommission somewhere in the front or so. The push is still there. Can we jump up top? Yes, we can. So we can get into, looks like gunner, passenger, commander, the standard stuff. So let's do gunner, because of course that's the most fun. Pretty neat animation going through the hatch there. So the interior looks pretty cool. Looks like a death trap. Got stuff blowing up in the distance. Kind of weird that I can touch the hazard lights and the handbrake from here. So interesting that the gunner can pop the handbrake. But that is what it is. Looking through the sight. Pretty standard sight. Let's see if it's going to let us switch weapons. Yes, it can. Alright. So we got 7.62. Pretty standard, same as the BTR. 14x5. It's the 114mm. Now that I'm reloaded, I'm going to bring our sight back down. I've got the LAV in front of us. Kind of interesting that I can see the spotlight here. Okay. Looks like it is smoking, so definitely does damage. Let's go and switch to the driver's seat. So if you like to play first person like I do, looks like, is there a way to pop the hatch? It is. There you go. You can pop the hatch and look outside, so that's pretty neat. Let's go and start this thing up. Got custom sounds. Take a look from the outside here. Pretty neat. Just a little smoky. And of course the part that everyone's wondering. Is it amphibious? Assuming that I don't blow myself up getting there. I think we get it in one shot. Never mind. So there we go. Yes, it is amphibious, and this is what it looks like from the interior. Pretty dry, which is neat. Close this up. So yeah, of course there's a glass in front of it seals, so even if this little armor plate is open, you're not just gonna have, you know, water rushing through. Would be cool if they had a mechanic where water would rush through if somebody shot out your glass. That would be pretty neat. But yeah, so that is the new addition on the Soviet side. Let's go ahead and check out the LAV-25 on the US side. Alright, LAV-25. So, looks pretty darn cool. We got our side glasses out the side there. Looks pretty neat. Let's see if we can get through. Passenger. Oh, that was... Okay, I was sent to God there for a second. So there's that. Can we get into gunner from here? No, we cannot. Oh, we can. I lied. Alright, let's get to gunner. Let's get to the Huey. Alright, what am I looking at? So I got my stick. Lots of very organized wires and stuff. They're pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's check out the sight. Nice, 25 by 137, so that's pretty neat. See if we can see anything on the strip. Yeah, this thing hits hard. Really hard. Another cargo van. The mighty cargo van seems to not care. Takes out friendly LAVs with no problem. Let's see, we got also 137 HEIT, that's pretty cool. That is going to cause problems, I can tell. Incinerary. Again, the cargo man shrugging it off. And then 7.62. Pretty neat. Alright, so can I get the driver from here? Yes, I can. Cool. I can't see a thing out of this. High beams. Got our lights. Alrighty, alrighty. Let's go ahead and crank it up. Nice. Run smooth. The only thing is, how can I see? Got something for nut cracking. Glad I cracked my nuts, I guess. The only question is, how can I see out of this thing? I might be dumb. Alright, let's see. Open. Okay, well I can open the top hatch. I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. I know somebody who knows this is probably yelling at me right now, but how do I could definitely drive it. Questionable. Well, if you rapidly press the horn button, it looks like you're doing a very questionable action. Alright, so I couldn't figure out how to do first person. I am 6'7" in real life, so this would probably be what it would look like for me. My head would likely be sticking on the hatch, so we're going to just do this in third person. So it runs pretty smooth, pretty neat. Go ahead and make a beeline down towards the water. This should be amphibious. Pretty darn cool. Gotta say, this thing is definitely going to be a menace. Assuming I... Nope, don't flip, come on. Alright. Alright. So one thing I just discovered that I remember in the old experimental version there was a problem. If you get out of a vehicle while upside down, sometimes you fall through the map. It didn't do it that time, but it did it earlier, so it seems like that's still an issue. You need 12 people to push or pull this thing, so good luck finding 12 people that are going to be willing to do that. Let's just go ahead and TP this thing into the water over there and see what it looks like amphibious. Well, it's when it's in amphibious mode. Alright, so here she is, amphibious mode, activated. So again, just like most amphibious vehicles, it's mad slow. So it doesn't help when you get caught in a bunch of rocks. This looks like a first person. Again, I'm too dumb to figure out how to look through a periscope or something, so I'm just kind of gunning it. Letting Jesus take the wheel. So yeah, that's the LAV-25. Pretty darn cool. Alright, moving on to our what the game considers vehicles, because you probably sit inside of them. The Mortars and the new gun. So let's check out our new turret here. So this thing's pretty sweet. Alright, so we got our US and Soviet motors right there. With the aiming, let's check this out. So this is pretty cool. You can, of course, turn all of the mills and measurements off here. We can also change the displayed shell type, so high explosive, smoke, illuminating, and practice on the US side, so that's pretty cool. We can aim this thing as we need to, so that's pretty neat. Go ahead and pick up a mortar shell. So go ahead and fire it. And that's going to land off in space. So that is a pretty cool... It's going to be a pretty cool addition, I gotta say. So let's go ahead and run over quickly to the Soviet one. Hop on over. Go through the aiming. So it looks like we have illumination on this one, so that's pretty cool. We've got smoke, illuminating, and high explosive, no training rounds on the Soviet one. So we'll just go ahead and aim this thing some random direction. Grab ourselves a mortar shell. And we're going to go ahead and fire. And there she blows. So yeah, of course you can carry these in your inventory. You can obviously pick up different shells depending on what you want to shoot out, if it's smoke, illuminating, etc. So that's pretty cool. Gotta say, I am probably the most excited about the mortars. I'm really excited for this to drop down into stable. I think this feature right here is going to be pretty neat, but wait till you check out all of the features that have been added for the GM in terms of mortars and things they can do. Again, the AI can fire this, so when we look at destruction, we're going to go ahead and make use of them so they can do the destruction for us, and then we'll have a review on that new feature that's coming. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. Alright, so jumping into my favorite part, what's new on the GM side of things, we can now add the mine rows. So you can add AT mine rows. So of course you can turn this whatever direction you want. As you can see, it adds a row of AT mines. You can do the same thing with a small field, randomize through, a medium field, randomize through, or if you really hate people and you don't want them disarming things, you could do a large minefield, and as you can see, it just puts them everywhere. So definitely going to be chaotic. I can see this being chaotic in many ways, but honestly a lot of fun, because minefields aren't just placed in one or two areas, they're usually placed across a large spanning area. And of course you can do this with the Soviet stuff as well. So pretty much here everything always mirrors right on the US and Soviet ends. But what I'm most excited about is the mortar shells. So we can now send these as GM. See there, we've got destructible, so peak, there goes a sign. So with the shells themselves, you can do small, medium, large, you can do a creeping, a combining. We also have the ability to do smoke, and then, or smoke mortars, so you can do that via GM, of course. You can also put down smokes, so different color, white, green, red, purple, and yellow. And then, of course, you can do flares. So let's see what some of these look like. Why not just jump into the large barrage? And so we'll come up here on the hill, and let's experience this in first person. See how long I survive. The answer there was not very long, which you would expect going through a field that's being shelled. So that's our mortars. Of course, you've got the creeping. All that means is you can set the direction, and it's like range finding, right? So they're just going to creep their way up. As you can see here, just walking those shells in, right? And then of course you've got the combining, so it's going to go one way and then the other way, which is pretty neat. Let's see what our smoke looks like. So let's do a large smoke. Definitely very cool. Kind of curious what FPS would be like, though. That's pretty neat. I'm probably not the best person to test for FPS, but hopefully they've optimized smoke. Smoke, at least in my experience, has always led to lots of people crashing out when used in excessive quantities. So I would assume, since it's going for PS5 and Xbox, that they're definitely optimizing the smoke, because it would be kind of silly to add this feature. Again, just for disclosure's purpose, I am on a PC, so probably not the best representation, but that's pretty darn cool. And then of course you can drop GM smoke, so you have white smoke, green smoke, red smoke, purple smoke, yellow smoke. Goodbye, John. Pretty neat. These look awesome. We've had colored smokes that you can launch, but now the GM can drop them, so that's pretty cool. If you hate your team, you can just drop a bunch of clearing smokes in areas that are not friendly. So there's that. And we're going to switch quickly to night here and check out what these illuminating flares are like. So that's pretty darn cool. So that's the mortar illumination. Gets brighter as it comes to the ground. That's really cool. You can see it coming on down. Let's go ahead and do a white flare over here. So there's the white flare. And I love how it just doesn't appear at once, right? As the flare is coming down, it's just getting brighter and brighter. They did a really good job with lighting. So the white flare right there, that looks pretty neat. And then of course, if we want to make this a little more terrifying, let's go ahead and do a red flare. And put ourselves down on the ground and see what this looks like. So we got a red flare coming through the woods here. I gotta say, Arma, honestly, in terms of lighting, Reforger just looks so darn good with lighting and graphics quality. I mean, that just looks awesome. You can see the flare coming down, getting brighter as it comes down to the ground. That's really cool. So, yeah, that's a pretty welcome feature. Again, AI will also fire these, and you can command the mortar teams to do these as well, which is pretty neat. It'd be kind of cool if I could run into this thing and it just like lands on me and incinerates me. Maybe that should be something they add. Forest fires. Oh, look at that. That's pretty creepy to come see running towards you. So flares, as you can see, pretty darn neat. So apart from the GM effects, it looks like they've added a couple different things in terms of the teams. So most of these are still the same, but I think I saw some, like, the randoms were there before, but now you have, like, the UI at least is different, I think, for some of these leaders. But the crewman is new, so that's pretty neat. I also think it's funny how the picture is, like, a different quality than all the rest. So crew commander. Again, this will be the same for all the factions. This is pretty cool, though. So we've got guerrillas. So that's pretty cool. Again, crew commander, like I said, it'll be the same. So we got guerrillas. That's going to definitely cause a lot of chaos for people trying to avoid hitting civilians. So that's pretty neat. And then this is just jumping into vehicles. So kind of curious what the guerrilla spotter is going to be like. So it's the daylight. And, well, I guess he F around and found out. So that's what happened to Karla Jelinek. And that's also pretty neat. I just noticed that. So now they've added, like instead of before it was just status, now we have name, blood type, their birth, when they died. That's pretty cool. And then a bio, fears killing a man more than losing his own life. So I wonder if this is the case for all troops. And this guy's just melting the FIA. And so yeah, it is. So they have bios now. So look, blood type A+, feels guilty that he lives yet others around him have died. I think it's a really neat touch. I just noticed that. That's pretty darn cool. And you can see our buddy here, Ted, who keeps walking away. Stop it, Ted. Ted, stop. Ted, please. Ted, I'm begging you. Thank you. So Ted Wilson here just wants to get back home. So clearly, man doesn't give a crap about anything. He just wants to go back to Arizona. I understand. He's 21 too, so I feel it. I feel it, Ted. We'll make sure to get you home, buddy. Alright, so jumping into the next thing, destructibility. So we're here at the town of St. Philippe, and we've got lots of dense buildings here, and we're basically going to just put down some mortar shells on the area, and we're just going to see how the place looks after we do that. So we're going to just drop down a couple of large mortar shells here. So let's go ahead and do here, here, and here. Alright, so as you can see, we've definitely got quite a lot of building and tree destruction here. So let me go ahead and drop us a character in here so we can see what this looks like. Lots of lingering smoke. Church here, as you can see, it's all just rubble. So it seems like they do have like a custom rubble, at least for the different types of buildings. Lots of lingering smoke. I really do have some performance questions on how that's going to work, especially once you have a firefight and stuff going on, right? But honestly, yeah, pretty destroyed. So yeah, there's nothing left here. So now what I'm curious about is, well, what does it feel like and what does it look like when you're inside a house? Alright, so we got our guy up in here. We're going to go ahead and shoot one shell in. It's right on top of the roof. Okay, so one shell. Oh, wow. So one shell and that's it. So it seems like you get a little bit of an audible warning and you basically just go black before the house collapses. So let's try seeing what that's like in GM. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to throw a shell. And yeah, it just pretty much immediately goes into that crash state, so that's why you end up dying. Wow. Wow. So one shell leads to complete destruction. I think that's going to be, I think a little excessive, I'm going to be honest. If cranes are included on this, probably not. But hey, let's see. Oh, no, cranes are included. Wow. Okay, that's pretty neat. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the one shell per building type of thing. I feel like that's going to be very excessive, even in like a conflict mode. Because I mean, if you shell an area like this, I mean, yes, you do expect destruction, but I think building health could use a tweak. I think one shell is a little extreme because, you know, I mean, it's just going to end up with areas, especially on smaller maps like Arland, where things just kind of, I mean, disappear quickly. So I think larger buildings should be at least given, you know, like something like this. I would assume will probably take more shells than one. So I hope it would. So that's one shell. Nope, whole thing's going down. So yeah, like that's a little extreme. I feel like that should take at least a couple of shells. I mean, I do like the sound effects. I do like the presentation. I do like the smoke that's left after. I think that's done really well, but I think they could do with adjusting the health a little bit. Let's see how it looks like if we hit this tower. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it falls like a tower. So again, I think the destruction effects are done really well. The animations are great. I am concerned for console performance, especially with all the smoke kind of lingering like that, if you add in like a firefight. But again, just echoing the thoughts of, I do think there needs to be some reevaluation on the health. Gas station, same thing. Kind of hoping it would have exploded or something. Do these guys explode or do they just flatten? Just, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think building health needs to be revisited, otherwise destruction is on point. And of course the same thing exists for trees, so we'll do, let's say, a large barrage here, and why not? Let's go ahead and run into that. Yeah, it's like the Amazon rainforest getting deforested in real time. I think one shot on trees is pretty reasonable. I think that's fine, but you can see where I'm getting at here. It's kind of like, I don't think it should be one shot for buildings and trees. That seems a little unreasonable. It seems like the clear time for trees is pretty quick, which I think is fine. I would like them, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's like a gameplay perspective or stability perspective for the, you know, whatchamacallit, the clearing here to be pretty quickly. But I think they could do with slowing that down a little bit, especially if you were kind of like seeing this happen. It feels like it would just be a little unusual if things just kind of disappear in front of your eyes. So I think that could stay at least a little bit. It looks like the stumps, yeah, the stumps are staying. It's just the explosive spots. The explosive spots going away. I think that's fine. But yeah, I think the tree clearing rate is a little excessive. Now maybe it's different if you were actually standing there. It could just be because there's no players within the vicinity that's triggered, but or maybe that's an alternative way if it's not already being handled, right? Is if no players in this area, clear quickly, but if someone's here, keep it. Kind of like you keep bodies. So that's just one thing. But yeah, I do think revisiting the building destruction, again, one shell per house is a little excessive. I do think that the building health needs to be reconsidered. Otherwise, I really do like the animations. I am really excited for destructibility. I think that's probably my most excited feature, or the feature I'm most excited for. A little bit of dyslexia there. In terms of what's coming onto stable soon. So yeah, I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Hope you liked the deep dive, and I'll just catch you guys on the next video.